Let's say your Starbucks Thanksgiving is coming up and you want to train your baristas with a new way to greet customers. You can either do it as a memo or would you rather do it as a video? So the video use case is obviously more powerful for that use case, but there's no video platform that exists that brings that all together. And around 2018, Vimeo pivoted to more of a business-oriented video platform, a true SaaS product. We've got strengths in management and collaboration. The dream is for Vimeo to be the default answer. We aim to be the preeminent video distribution platform where we connect videos wherever they may have been created to the viewers wherever they may be. What we found is people who connect to integrations, they retain better.
Hey, this is Carlos, CEO of Product School and your host on the Product Podcast. I'm excited about this episode because it was recorded in our New York podcast studio with Justin Kim, the Vice President of Product at Vimeo. Justin was also a speaker at our ProductCon conference in New York, where he covered a critical yet often underappreciated topic, how to build a scalable platform product. So I invited him back to dive deeper into this topic. Founded in 2004, Vimeo has evolved from being the hipsters version of YouTube to a leading SaaS video platform for businesses. It is now a public company with over 300 million users and over 100 billion video plays. Justin drives Vimeo's platform strategy across essential areas like payments, trust and safety, integrations, monetization, identity, and access management. Before Vimeo, he spent nearly 12 years at Amazon, where he led the AWS commerce platform. In this episode, we explore Vimeo's transformation from a consumer-focused video discovery product to an enterprise video platform, when and how to re-platform, and the power of third-party integrations for boosting user retention and ecosystem growth. We also touch on some incredible use cases with GenAI in video creation. I enjoyed Justin's calm personality, sense of humor, and ability to break down complex topics into easily digestible insights. Let's dive in. Welcome to the Product Podcast, Justin.
Thank you for having me.
You are a repeated guest. Well, the first time you were a speaker at ProductCon New York, so we are having you back because you did well.
Thank you.
Quite a different setup, right?
This is great.
The other one, the conference is a different situation. We have like 1,500 or more product managers in the audience. Here, it's just you and me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to try to go deep into some of the things that I know you do at Vimeo as the VP of product.
Yes.
So maybe we can start with Vimeo, because I know it's been around for 20 years. So maybe you can help us tell us more about it.
Vimeo has had quite a journey over the past 20 years. So Vimeo started off as what I like to call the hipsters version of YouTube. And around 2018, Vimeo pivoted to more of a business-oriented video platform, a true SaaS product. And since then, we haven't looked back. And so now we're very much, we aim to be the preeminent video distribution platform where we connect videos wherever they may have been created to the viewers wherever they may be.
Because when I started using Vimeo as a user, I thought of it as, the higher quality version of some of YouTube videos that I could find, but it has evolved. I was checking out your website recently, and it took me time to find the discovery feature. You truly pivoted into a SaaS platform.
That's correct. So the discovery features of the product is they're less emphasized, and it's more about how do you collaborate with others to create videos? How do you collaborate with others to manage your video libraries? And there's lots of internal use cases for businesses. So for example, let's say you're Starbucks and you want to, it's Thanksgiving is coming up and you want to train your baristas with a new way to greet customers. You can either do it as a memo or would you rather do it as a video? So the video use case is obviously more powerful for that use case. There's others like town halls, things like that. Messages from the CEO sometimes can be more powerfully conveyed as a video. And so Vimeo has all of the tools to manage that and also keep it secure and private. So obviously if the CEO is going to be giving a message to their employees, you don't want your competitors to hear the same message. And so you can keep those private. And at the same time, there's also marketing use cases where you create videos for your brand or your product, and you can publish it to multiple places fairly easily, like TikTok or Instagram or even YouTube.
So let's talk about the business model. As I imagine now, it has evolved as well. I was checking out your pricing page and I saw the free tier all the way up to an enterprise tier.
Yes. The business model for Vimeo, it follows many other online businesses. This is kind of the classic model of you start with freemium or a free trial, then you graduate into a set of tiers that are typically a good, better, best model. So you see 3 tiers at Vimeo, and you see that across many other offerings. And then once you hit that highest tier and customers are really seeing the value of the product and the solution, then you can kind of graduate to an enterprise plan.
So how are you thinking about those thresholds for users to upgrade from one tier to the other?
It's mostly thinking about the usage and the value that the customer can receive from the product. So in Vimeo's case, we like to think about the tiers in terms of what you can do with video. And certainly at the more advanced tiers, you can do things like webinars and live events. And some of the more basic tiers, you can do just basic distribution. So you can see the feature set that we have at those different tiers are going to be different. You're going to get more at those higher tiers. And then the other one is depending on your business. And at Vimeo, it's about video. So we also have at the various tiers different consumption aspects of it. So a number of uploads, videos, and so forth. So if you're using video a lot, which we would like, then you move into higher tiers.
Mm-hmm. And I know you're big on platform. Your entire talk, ProductCon, was a platform as a product.
Yes.
So tell me more about how you think about it.
So, my role over the past, certainly at Vimeo and over the past many years, I like to say that I specialize in the product areas of a business that facilitate the commerce of the business. So my areas at Vimeo include payments, trust and safety, integrations, monetization, integrations, identity and access management. And so the way I think about platform as a product, it's we have specific goals for each of these areas, and it's really about driving business outcomes for the company.
So let's discuss maybe the success metrics of these areas. How are you defining success in combination for an ultimate business success?
We look at each of the different areas separately, and the success metrics will be unique to each of the areas depending on what the needs are. So payments is I think one of the easiest ones. So we look at 3 primary metrics. One would be the payment success metric, which is for every transaction that's attempted, how many successfully go through, and that's counterbalanced with chargeback and fraud. And also we have a third metric, which is cost of payment. So we want to balance our success with our overall costs. So that's the easiest one. Strategic integrations, I think, is a really interesting one, where we, in the past, we had looked at integrations as just a lead generator. And I think that's not quite the best way to think about integrations, especially for a SaaS business. What we've seen with SaaS businesses is integrations are a real core part of the business offering, especially for a SaaS. I mean, think about how many applications do you use today on an ongoing basis in your day-to-day? Half a dozen, perhaps. And so, for example, we happen to be on Google products. We also have Slack. There's an integration there where if there's an update or a comment on one of my on a Google Doc, I'll get an alert on Slack. What a wonderful, magical moment for me as soon as I saw that. And so it's the same deal with video. Video can be incorporated into your day-to-day. And so these integrations become a really core part of the product. And as I mentioned about Vimeo being the video distribution platform, where we've got strengths in management and collaboration, but those, in terms of where those videos are created, we have those on-ramps via integrations. And then we have those off-ramps into where the viewers are. So for integrations, if you just think about it as lead generation, you're really missing a huge opportunity for integration. So we're looking at more usage of those integrations, the number of users that are connecting with integrations, the number of users who are uploading videos through those integrations, and then also sending them out and publishing external or outside of Vimeo. So those are the main metrics we're now looking at for integrations. And we're also connecting the dots with what we found is people who connect to integrations, they retain better. So if you're just looking at lead generation, which is more of a conversion or a revenue view, you're missing a significant part of the story. So Vimeo is a subscription business. We look at churn and retention very carefully, and if we see that integrations lead to greater retention, that's a huge story.
What about trust and safety?
Trust and safety is a really interesting. That's a really interesting area, and that's a trickier one to assess. It's one of those. So for trust and safety, for those who are not deeply familiar, it's more about there's kind of two aspects. One is we look at adherence to our policy. So for example, you can't upload a video with hate speech, Holocaust denial, incitement of violence, child pornography, things like that. There are not only do we have our community guidelines, there's also laws against much of that content. So our metrics are, we want to really look at, and then the other side is copyright. So you can't just upload a video with, Beyonce or Taylor Swift's latest song. So we have to make sure that we're, protecting the rights of creators, those that hold that intellectual property. Part of the metrics is looking for what's called prevalence on the platform. And this is the tricky part about trust and safety, because as soon as you identify the policy violating content, you have to action it, you take it down. And so in theory, the prevalence would be 0% if you're identifying and actioning. And so there's a different metrics that is called prevalence. It's more of a sampling exercise where we're doing everything we can to identify policy violating content and taking them down quickly. And then we also are looking to generate a prevalence metric, and then we track that over time. So that's on the how are we doing on trust and safety. And on the other side, trust and safety, we work very closely with trust and safety operations. And so we want to look at things like moderator efficiency, moderator health. So you can imagine if there's a trust and safety moderator that has to view objectionable content, like child pornography, for example, there are some automation tools that we can develop from a product and engineering standpoint that can help alleviate some of that, where you don't have to be exposed to as much and other things. So as far as KPIs and metrics, we look at both the prevalence, how well we're doing, but we also look at volume and automation rates.
And speaking of e-commerce, as differently from just payment reliability, are you also overseeing the conversion from free to paid, pay to upgrade, renewals, and stuff like that?
I would say for a subscription business, that's owned by, I think that's a all hands on deck kind of ownership. So I wouldn't say I own it. No.
So you mentioned engineers, and I know PMs engineers have this love-hate relationship, but especially within the platform context where you actually have to be technical. You can't just wing it and go to the engineer and be like, hey, do this. So how do you think about truly having PMs add value in that relationship?
Yeah, so I'll probably break it up into two parts here. So one is true platform product managers for true, I would say, engineering platform teams. I think that's what you're driving at. The other side is, so for trust and safety and payments, that one's a little bit easier to navigate because for example, a product manager in payments, you bring a lot of expertise in payments. So you have a view on approval rates, you have a view on, or you have a deep understanding of some of the, for example, regulations or some of the card networks. So for example, Visa, I think they have a 2,000-page document with all these rules and all the ins and outs of payment acceptance on the Visa network. And so you would expect a product manager would understand that, and that's the value they can really add to the engineering team. And I think the engineers would recognize that. For engineering, I think you're right. For a true engineering platform team, it's tricky. It's tricky. A lot of teams, they don't operate with product managers. And I think that's a mistake because product managers and engineers, they bring different skills to the table. So in terms of evangelizing the work that you're doing in engineering, or being able to tell the story and connect the work that they're doing with the customer impact or business value, that's in the bread and butter. That's what product managers do best in platform. Engineers, they're going to be best at technical design, coding, those kind of things. And so the value for product managers in platform is to really understand everything that the team is doing, but being able to connect it to customer value and business value, and being able to wrap it in a good story that's compelling and in a way that the greater part of the organization can understand.
And I think that's especially tricky in internal facing products, just because there's less connection to the ultimate customer, right? So how do you bridge that gap?
Yeah, I think you're right. There's two levels, I think, to it. The first level being your internal customers, and then the second level is to the external customer. I mean, I think the best platform product managers are the ones that can understand both worlds, where they can understand the speed at which the company needs to operate in terms of if you have features that depend on the platform. But then so I've learned this over the years, every feature team product manager. So the way one simplified model would to think about this, to think about the structure in a company is you have the platform teams and then you have feature teams. So features build on top of the platform. So in my experience, the feature teams, they're all fighting to get onto your roadmap for a platform. And you only have so much capacity, so you're going to be disappointing some people. But all of the feature teams, they're going to be really pushing the customer value that their feature is going to deliver. And so you as the platform product manager, you almost have to mediate or adjudicate between all the competing priorities. And so you have to absolutely understand what the end customer value is, because ultimately you're going to have to say no to some person. And so you need to be able to say, well, these other feature teams, here's the value that we're driving for our customer. Here's the value we're going to be driving for our business. And then they have to be able to communicate that in a way that the other person who's going to be disappointed, they can't rationally or reasonably argue against that. So I'll give you an example. So it could be that I'm just going to make up in a hypothetical example. Let's say you have these two feature teams and they both need space on your roadmap for the next quarter or month, whatever your planning cycle is. One team, it's a $10 million feature, or it's $10 million of incremental revenue or value to the customer. And the other team, it's really, even if you're really stretching, it's $1 million. And so the person who's pushing that $1 million opportunity, they can't rationally say, no, we should forego that $10 million for the $1 million that I'm pushing for. So if you're able to communicate that in a way that's clear, then people will be disappointed but not pissed off.
And what are other considerations for you when you have to make those decisions? I can imagine the engineering resources and other types of things would also help you decide, because what if that $10 million opportunity is going to take you 2 years and the risk is higher?
Oh, I see. Oh, yeah. So in that example, it would be $10 million on one side, $1 million on the other side, assuming engineering effort is equal on the two. Obviously, if the $1 million opportunity is a two-day thing for one engineer versus the $10 million opportunity, which takes 2 years, that's a different equation, or that's a different calculation. So all things being equal, you would go for the one with a higher impact.
So I want to take us to the integrations piece. I know it's big for you guys. And
yes.
How do you go about picking, first of all, who you integrate with?
So we're in certainly at Vimeo, when we think about our integrations, I see it as a journey where we're at right now, and we're kind of in the early stages. And I'll get to your question in a second as far as picking. So right now, we have to do a lot of the work in order to integrate partners into the Vimeo platform. And so we do have to pick. We have to pick. And so the way we prioritize is we really think about the value that those integrations are going to deliver to our customers in a big way. So for example, Adobe Premiere would be a very important thing for us to integrate, because that's where most filmmakers will be doing most of their work for video. Also, we would look at Google Meets or Zoom, that generates lots of video, and especially for enterprise and business use cases, having the on-ramps onto Vimeo for those kind of town halls or meetings or whatnot, that's clear use and value. And so we're going to prioritize those versus maybe some smaller businesses out there that would still have value with integrating into Vimeo. So right now, we're in a point where we do have to prioritize them. So that's how we prioritize those. But eventually with integrations, we do want to get to a point where we have, I would call it a partner ecosystem, where we have robust external SDKs, where partners anywhere they are. So in terms of both where the viewers are or where the videos are created, so the on-ramps and off-ramps, they're able to utilize our external SDKs in a way that they can do the engineering work. And as far as the work for us, it's more about partner management and ensuring that we have only the high quality, we have the appropriate guardrails. That will enable us to go much faster, and then we don't have to make those choices. So I like to say that when you think about, for example, Gen AI for generative AI for video, I don't think Vimeo should necessarily pick the winners, but imagine, any company that comes up with their new model or the way that they can generate videos, there's an easy way for them to integrate into video, and you can just upload directly into Vimeo. So we're not there yet, but that's how I think about prioritizing. The less that we can, for integrations, the less that we have to decide, the better. That means that we can get more and more of those integrations.
That's it. That's the dream for any marketplace. You want supply coming to you. And I think also prioritizing and being intentional about the type of supply you want first, and even creating that integration yourself will also help with that next wave.
Yes.
And talk to me about the enterprise product, because I see your official tiers and they are very well defined, right? Like this is the amount of the features that you can get. But like when you get into the enterprise world, like how do you really pick what you are going to provide a user and then potentially price that? Where are the limits?
Yeah, so this is just my personal opinion. I tend to think for a business like Vimeo, or there are a lot of businesses out there that have a kind of what you would call a self-service tier, and then you have this enterprise tier or enterprise level. And I tend to, the way I view it is it's the same product. It's the same product, same solution. The features that you have available, or the consumables, like in Vimeo's case, the number of videos, or in the case of, let's say, I think Slack, they price on a per seat model. I'm not sure, but there are some businesses that, for example, the consumable is per seat. So you start off on the lower tiers and you have a certain price per seat, or you have number of seats that are included, and then we go to enterprise and you have much larger numbers. So that's, I think I see it as, but it's the same. Essentially, it's the same product. And so for Vimeo, it's similar. And on the enterprise side, we have more advanced features that I think are more in the, if you think about large international companies, there may be requirements for data sovereignty in other countries. And so when you get to that enterprise tier, Vimeo will provide the tools for that, or things like SSO, or things like being able to manage large organizations. So we're talking thousands of users. You would need to get onto the enterprise tier in order to have the tools that are available to manage efficiently there.
There is something that sounds very scary for a lot of PMs, which is the word replatforming.
Replatforming,
right?
Yes.
Like maybe redesigning a consumer product, maybe in the internal facing world that could be replatforming. And there's a lot of legacy businesses out there that had a platform kind of plugging in old tech with new tools, and at some point that's about to explode. They're like, okay, it's time to press the reset button and replatform.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've gone through any of those yet.
We're going through right now on the payments space. It's significant and it's painful. So I can talk about that. I also, it's really interesting about the replatforming question is, I forget, I read this book a few years ago on exactly this topic, which is talking about how the thing about, sometimes we call it spaghetti code, or this really gnarly and messy area that's really hard to develop in. The thing is, every branch or every aspect of the platform or the code that's complicated is because you probably solved some problem that you didn't anticipate. So you have some high customer severity issue that came up, some incident, and then engineers came on it, found the solution, implemented it. And that's kind of like, that's what gets that spaghetti code. But the problem is, for a replatform, is you're never going to be able to really identify every single one of those little outliers, those little bugs and things that have happened over the years. And so when you do a replatform, it's really tough. So the dream state is you kind of imagine, say, imagine if we had this, we just replatform. Let's just start over again. Imagine this golden state we'll be in. It, according to the book, I think you never get there. And the book, that logically makes sense because of that when you think about how all the bug fixes over the years, that's the learning, that's understanding those use cases. You're not going to be able to untangle all of that in a replatforming. So you could spend years, and you could spend years doing it. And when you get to the end of that time period, you're going to be in a state where you have almost an imperfect product or platform, and now you have to start that journey again of solving all those bugs going forward. And so you really have to, and replatforming exercises take a tremendous amount of resources. And so you really have to understand what exactly are you going to get for it.
I think to me the nerve-wracking thing is platform touches everything.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's not like you just switch it on and suddenly it starts working. So that progressive rollout while keeping the lights on must be really, really challenging. And what if you need to roll something back?
Yes. Yeah. That's the other aspect. So, one of the ways to do it is so for a engineering replatform, you kind of space out the features or the components. You can try and break up if you have a monolith, for example, you can break up conceptually what the different things that people are, what the system is trying to do in buckets. And then you can replatform bucket by bucket, for example. That's one approach. On the payment side, which we're doing right now in our essentially it's a replatform. We did it currency by currency and also customer type by customer type. So we started with net new customers in a smaller geographic region. That was our test, essentially. And we started moving, new customers to the platform when they're entering their payment credentials for the first time. They're going to be on the new platform. And then we can observe and see what the comparison, and as I mentioned earlier, we look at payment success, and then we also look at some of the counterfactors like chargebacks and fraud. So if we compare those two numbers, and if they're about the same or even slightly better for the new platform, then we're feeling good. Then we move on to migrate. Then we move on to other currencies. Then we move on to migrating existing customers. Now I think that's the scariest part for payments. I was worried. My biggest worry is with that data transfer. So the way payments work is if you have what's called a merchant. There's customer-initiated transactions and there's merchant-initiated transactions for the recurring payments. If you don't have the right authorization data pieces, those renewal transactions could decline. And so what I was worried is through that data handoff, we could lose. I was worried about a 50% drop in payment success on those renewals. And you have to put together a very solid plan, get QA involved, get a lot of people involved, and so we're about even. So we're doing pretty good.
And as you think about the future, what's next?
What's next for
Vimeo?
Right now, the market is crowded. I think there are a lot of players out there, and if you think about video, there's you have YouTube, but YouTube is more of a ad-driven, ad monetized video distribution platform. It's more of a social media destination site. Same with TikTok. When you look at webinars, there's a few providers out there that specialize there. If you look at video management for knowledge sharing, there's a few providers out there, but there's no video platform that exists that brings that all together. And so what's next for Vimeo, or what's in the future, is at some point I would like Vimeo to, I think the dream is for Vimeo to be the kind of the default answer. For example, you would say, like for web search, you say, well, I'm going to Google it. Like imagine for video, Vimeo is not really a good word for a verb, but you kind of get the idea. Like that's what people think about when it comes to a video distribution platform where you've got a lot of great tools for management, collaboration, privacy, security, and that's what people think of.
One of the challenges and opportunities when building something that is that broad is how can you go deep enough in every single category so your product can actually be the best and not just a good enough version?
I think that's a classic product management question and conundrum, because the desire is to try to be all things to all customers. There's that classic saying, if you try to satisfy everyone, you're going to satisfy no one. Kind of, I'm butchering that one. We can look it up later, I guess. Anyway, but there's this idea that really it's the best products are ones that are really, really, really good at some very specific things. And the ones that companies I think that are not as successful are ones that branch out too quickly. But the problem is you also can't be too niche, because then you're just not going to be able to grow. There just aren't the total addressable market is not going to be large enough. So for Vimeo, I think you've kind of nailed it on the head, which is we need to figure out that balance and figure out what are those core elements that we're going to be absolutely the best, and what are those other areas that are not core to that mission, and then we just need to be really clear about what is our core and what is not.
And I think especially in the enterprise world, sometimes you do not need to be the best at everything, but you definitely need to be the best at something.
Yes.
And then there's value in convenience, in truly being that platform. And like some people can live with something that is good enough as long as they have the best product in what's core to them as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Cool. Well, Justin, thank you for your time. It was wonderful to geek out with you on all things platform and how you think about pricing.
Yeah, this was fun. Thank you.